excitement going in the junior high's got our volleyball. Yeah.
I don't think your marks are on there.
Sounds like that. Is this working better now?
Yeah.
How's that? We're good now? There we go. As bad as everybody hates to hear me, they probably ought to. Welcome to our board study meeting tonight. We appreciate all of you showing up and coming and being with us. Just a couple quick things. With Janice, do you want to run through the master board things again for us?
I explained that the director from the School Board Association has sent to us an email about how to proceed through our master board certification. The whole idea of master board certification is to reinforce what we know, to educate us further so that we're good school board members. And if anyone ever contests the fact that school board members aren't trained, they would just have to see what they've worked through on this master board. So I've forwarded that on to the school board. And also the notes I had on August 6th, the Joint Legislative Committee met, and that's the superintendents, the business administrators, and board members from each district. And what's so neat about that organization is it covers the whole state. So you get the big districts, the small districts, the rural districts, the urban districts, and so you really get good input. Some of the highlights from that meeting were that we can expect SB 37, if you remember it was vetoed by Governor Cox last year, that what it would do is take a portion of the revenue that schools earn through tax levies and deposit it into the Utah General Fund. And the Senate, the Utah Senate, is very much in favor of this. The House, not so much. So if you have a chance to reach out to your House member, that could be very advantageous. There was good news associated with that. President Adams, because what as a school, as education, we fear for funding for our students. And so President Adams was open to the establishment of a working group to consider long-term funding for education. So that was a real plus. He hasn't done that before. And also, it was suggested that when the tax notices go out, they won't say schools, because that gives a false impression that all those levies are going to the school districts if it will go into the general fund. So those were two real pluses. A couple other discussions. There was a discussion of a lunch, school lunch, and it was suggested that the students needed to have recess, and then they would need to have 20 minutes as a school lunch. And this was essentially opposed by a great number of the body, because they said that doesn't fit every school's district size, every school, every LEA's size, and so no action was taken on that. The associate director, the Lexi Cunningham, did a wonderful survey asking how their 4% WPU was used, and it ended up that was like 85% was in compensation. So she did a great diagram of that, of funded, unfunded, etc. It was well done. There's a real concern with absenteeism and how we can oppose that and how we can encourage our students to be present, because absenteeism has caused a great deal of problems and challenges for our students. And so at this point, Weber has enlisted in the program that will be statewide, that will encourage students to attend class. And the school board association is seeking for what they're calling us as statewide ambassadors for attendance. And so if you would be interested in participating in that you can go to the usba.cc page and can enlist yourself in that so that we can up our attendance and fight this curse of absenteeism that happened with COVID, etc. So we're grateful for that. And Superintendent, yes.
Yeah, so thanks, Janice, for that overview. I asked our Student Services Director, Jennifer Warren, just to add to how our district is participating in that statewide initiative. And so I've asked her to come up if that's okay.
There we go. As you mentioned, we as a district have joined the attendance campaign. So as part of that, the State Board of Education has been working with attendance collaboratives over the last school year to develop resources to help schools. So social media messaging that can go out, messaging that can go in newsletters, attendance incentive ideas, messaging, parent engagement resources. It's a multitude, it's a whole folder of resources that we have shared with our administrators. We have provided, Heather Hardy has provided some training around our attendance policy to school administrators, and then we've built them kind of a resource guide within our district resources for references that they can pull from, materials that they can utilize. And then speaking about being an attendance ambassador, I signed up to be one for our district. And so we'll continue to participate in trainings and different things with the State Board of Education and continue to provide that information to our building administrators and other employee groups that can also help support and message to our communities.
Was the being an ambassador, is that very complicated? It's because I
Not
was going to look at
so
it
far.
myself.
No, we're just getting going. So we participate in meetings. Part of the campaign and part of being an ambassador is just helping share the message. So by me sharing the message to our schools and to our administrators, that's part of my responsibility. And then part of being in the campaign is that we will share some of our data outcomes around attendance.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for your work.
You're welcome.
Jen, can I just make a quick suggestion? Is there a way to just provide a sampling, maybe an email to the board where they could see some of those resources, just so
Absolutely.
they have access to them in case they want to promote things as well?
Yes, so September is Attendance Awareness Month. So we'll share some things and I'll send some messaging to you as well.
That'll be excellent. Lexi sent me the website that you work through and down on it. It's how to become an ambassador. So that's probably what you'll be forwarding. Good.
Yes, I can send you that as well.
Good. Thank you so much.
Do you have any more, Janice?
Nope.
Okay.
That's it. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Appreciate it. Update from Superintendent, please.
Yes, so board, we have a kind of a robust agenda tonight, and I want to make sure we give our presenters ample time, but I thought I would just hit a couple of highlights. I want to first of all celebrate the successful school opening. Sometimes we take that for granted, that we get all of our 45 schools open and ready for running for business, and all of our employees welcoming children, and air conditioning units going in our schools, and all the bus routes and walk zones figured out. It is a huge endeavor to get the school year up and going, and I want to celebrate the wonderful people in this room and in our schools as well, because they've done such a wonderful job welcoming children. So shout out, first of all, to our wonderful faculties and staff across the district. We started the year off this year with a theme. We sent a theme out, a message out to all of our employees around Stay Mighty. I think I shared that with you via email. We've shared that message with our administrators. It's been a kickoff theme this year, just trying to remind educators that in many ways they are holding up the world and holding up our families and our students in a lot of wonderful supportive ways, and just encouraging them to make sure that they take care of themselves, but also to leverage their influence in all the positive ways that they do. And so we built a theme around Stay Mighty, and we've had some wonderful conversations around that. I want to also celebrate the fact that we opened our final Westfield Teen Center, the final project in our Teen Center project, and Emily Euler later in the board meeting is going to be celebrating that project, and I think we'll look forward to hearing from her a little later today, but wanted to acknowledge that. We also need to acknowledge the completion of Roosevelt and the ribbon cutting, which completes those 4 projects that were on the GO bond from November of 2021. No small endeavor to get those 4 schools done in the time frame that they were built in, and I have listed, as you know, there on your agenda, all of the different entities that have been involved in that, but want to give a special shout out to of course, our facilities and operations team, Larry Hadley, Brian Anderson, the entire maintenance division of our district, and tech services team for all of the countless hours they spent pulling wire and getting our technology up and ready and going in all of our new schools as well. Everybody listed there, a big shout out. And then lastly, board, I promised you that as a new member of the Utah High School Athletic Association Board of Trustees, I would give you just a short overview of meetings. We hold them quarterly, and I found out very quickly that this is quite a time commitment. Our first meeting was on August 21st, and it was almost a 5.5-hour meeting. It was a full day's meeting. Utah High School is covering a lot of issues and managing a lot of programming pieces, as you know. I'm really going to enjoy being a part of that organization. And one of the things I just wanted to update you on is there is a survey that has gone out to all of our patrons in Weaver School District at the secondary level. Coaches, students, parents, administrators, etc. All around gathering information and data around the potential of increasing the number of rest periods or moratoriums around our athletic programming. And I sent you some information via email, so I won't go into a whole lot of detail, but that survey will run through September. The Board of Trustees will then look at that data in October, and hopefully by the 1st of November, there might be some adjustments made to moratoriums. This particular study was informed by one of our local representatives, Katie Hall, one of our legislators, who was hearing from a lot of patrons in our county especially that the sheer number of athletic events and seasons right now are really, really problematic in terms of how families are managing their student athletes and the time commitment that it is taking. And so she has asked Utah High School to help with this survey, and we are doing that. What the intent of it is to try to figure out more time for family time for our student athletes, how to address some of the injury and overuse concerns that are happening, to make sure there's a balance between academics and athletics. Sometimes that can get a little skewed when there's a multi-sport athlete that's participating across an entire year. There's a lot of concern, according to Representative Hall, being expressed around coaches reporting that they're burned out, that their time away from their family is increasing. And so there are 3 possible interventions that could take place, and I just wanted to share these with you depending on how the data comes in from the survey. We might add an entire 3rd all-sport moratorium at some point in the year, probably in May or early June, just to say all sports off limits for a period of time. There's a second option that we're looking at is reducing the weekly practice limit from 20 hours to 15 hours. I don't know how popular that will be with our coaches, because they'll see that maybe as a putting them at a disadvantage as they try to develop athletes. And then there might be a third option that's looked at where there's a third, maybe they extend the moratoriums for each sport each year. And so we'll wait till the data comes in, but I wanted to make you aware of that in case you get any questions from patrons. Okay? That's all I've got.
We'll just give them your phone number.
Okay, give them my phone number. That's great.
Gina, quick question.
Yes, Bruce.
Does that make all of those standards will go across statewide?
Yes, it would be statewide. It would come, it would be in the policy handbook for Utah High School.
Great.
Yep. Oh, and lastly, yes, the best part of tonight, I wanted to show you this. Board, I'm not sure if I have emphasized something that we do every fall and featured it enough, and so I wanted to do that really quickly with you. I am so excited about this. There's nobody more excited about it, though, than Mr. Dave Hells. We go out to all of our elementary schools, superintendency and several district officials every fall, September through October. We hit every elementary and we read a book to every grade. I've been assigned the 4th graders this year. I'm super excited. We are going to be reading this book. It's called The Marvelous Now. And the book's message is all about helping students understand how important it is to be present in the moment and to enjoy everything going on around them. There's a message about resiliency in it as well. If you want the schedule so that you can maybe pop into one of the schools where we're reading, I would suggest that you go into a classroom where Dave Hells is reading, because it is a showcase of excitement. Where is Mr. Hells? He puts on a show, and it's authentic and genuine, and the kids are eating out of his hand. The rest of us are kind of slogging along, trying to keep up with Mr. Hells. But we're excited about reading this book, and that, like I said, will go on through the fall. So I wanted to make you aware of that. That's it.
Here we go. Thank you. Moving on, let's have a presentation from Far West City. Mayor Frickman and Doug Larson, please.
Hello, Board. I'm Ken Pippin, Mayor of Far West City. Just wanted to come and say hello. You guys know Doug. He's going to be giving a presentation. I'm just here to thank you for giving us the time to talk to you. And we have an exciting thing to hopefully bring up. Thank you. Oh, was it on? Luckily, I'm loud enough. I never know if mics work or not.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's always a pleasure to be here. You have certainly enjoyed our relationship over the years. Thank you. I always get nervous around him because my son got in trouble in junior high. I want to just make sure. So turn for me to go up and down. Okay, great. Anyway, so Doug Larson here on behalf of Far West City, trying to be super conscientious of your time limit. As your board meeting is starting at 6 o'clock. So we met with informally with your committee a couple of times to discuss this project. So Far West City is proposing a community reinvestment project area. And, you know, the simple term for that is proposing a project area that's going to generate new property tax revenue, which under this umbrella we refer to as tax increment, of which the city is requesting a portion of that tax increment be utilized to support the development under public infrastructure requirement. So the proposed project area is on the northeast corner of 2700 North and I-15, I-84 out in Far West City. It's probably the most northeast parcel in the entire city. The black, on the right side, the black dotted line around the project area is actually the city's boundary. So what you see the mobile home park, and to the north is in Pleasant View City, and the entirety of the project, with the exception of the extended road, is all in Far West City. It's about 50 acres. The 2024 taxable value of the real estate within the project area is just about $9.8 million. Working with the developer, we're anticipating that the estimated assessed value at full build out, which we anticipate within 5 years from triggering the development, will be just over $100 million. The proposed request for tax increment is a 15-year term. We're certainly conscientious if that goes beyond your guiding principles, and we'll talk about that briefly. And the 75% participation is above your preference for 50% as well. So across all of the taxing entities, Weber County School District and the other entities, we're estimating the property tax increment that would be supporting this project would total $10.3 million over that 15-year period. In addition to property tax, the city of Far West has pledged $7 million in new sales tax revenue that will be generated from the project, in addition to $877,000 in stormwater fee waivers. Please stop me if you have questions as I'm going. What's working? Can you go down one, Trent? Thanks. Just a quick conceptual from the developer of the project. Next slide, please. There's one more conceptual. The key thing to this develop, I would say the key thing, this is why we're here asking you and the other entities to consider this project and our request at the level we're requesting. This will be a retail development with a multifamily development also on the far north end, but that first box, that big box you see, will be a target. And the tax increment is strictly tied to having an operating target by 2029, target retail store. That second big box will be comprised of other major, what I refer to as legacy anchor retailers. You can see along the western border that is just east of the interstate, those are retail pads, and again, the multifamily development on the far north end. Now it's working. I made a brief comment. The tax increment will be strictly limited to reimbursement and investment in public infrastructure. The interlocal or contract agreement that the city has with your district would have that language that the school board funds can only be used for public infrastructure. Public infrastructure includes water, sewer, technology. Under the code, we're allowed to include public parking in that, and the site preparations that go along with prepping and installing public infrastructure. The current estimates for site preparation and infrastructure costs are about $35 million. That 15-year period, 87% of the 75% will go to public infrastructure. The tax code, the Utah code requires 10% of that tax increment, given the level or size of this project or the revenue coming in. 10% of that tax increment goes to housing. Far West City has their own housing authority and will require, in order for the development to use the 10% for public infrastructure associated with the multifamily component, the developer, owner of the multifamily, will be required to have a portion of their lease rates at moderate and targeted income levels to, in order to access that 10% funding. Far West's redevelopment agency will be receiving 3% of the tax increment for agency and administration, which is certainly in line with your preference. All of the tax increment across the entities will be capped, and so if we get to that cap, in year 10 instead of 15, then increment stops, and that's an appropriate thing to have as part of these. We anticipate The tax increment will trigger in tax year 2028, also in step with your current guiding principles.
Doug, when you said public parking,
Yes, sir.
and then you referred to parking, so is all of the parking in the development considered public parking?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Yeah. This is just a expanded view of the multi-family development on the far north end. We're anticipating approximately 260 units to be developed in that multi-family complex. Important thing about the why we do this, why we budget things this way. I mentioned earlier that tax increment is strictly limited to having a target, operating target by 2029. When I say that, I need to clarify that the city is very close to finalizing a participation agreement with the developer that has that language. We anticipate that it will stay very close to that. But for certain, at this point, the developer understands and the target corporation understands that those are the requirements of the city as well. And so I think that's a key thing. If it wasn't a target, we wouldn't be asking you to consider this type of proposal. Targets are a legacy development. They last forever. We have a good example of that because we already have a target in Weber County. It's been there since it opened, and it has continued to attract other major retailers that have stayed. There's some unusual cost of site preparation across this 50 acres, about 18 inches of fill, so there is some unusual anticipated site costs that this will help support. The city has done a good job, in my opinion, of vetting the developer, Woodsonia Real Estate. They're doing a very similar development currently up in Cache County. They've taken down the old Logan City Mall, and they're bringing in a Target retail center and a development that looks very similar to the one you see they're proposing for Far West, with the exception of hotel as opposed to apartments. The developer has a strong and trended relationship with the Target Corporation, and that's important. You can be a developer, but if you don't have the access to the capital and the experience, all the other stuff doesn't matter much. And so the city has good faith in the developer's ability to bring this project to fruition as expected.
Doug,
Yes.
you may have just answered this question, but all of those are apartments? There's none of those that are single-family?
No, sir. The proposal on the table from the developer this time are all apartments, a 260-unit apartment development. And that's been a subject of conversation.
Will that be developer-owned then, at that point, at the end of
At
it?
this point, that's our understanding, but there's nothing that requires the Woodsonia, in this case, to continue to own that portion of the development.
Okay, thanks.
Jumping to the numbers real quick. The estimates for the total development are about $224 million, with the property tax increment, the sales tax increment. There's already $5.4 million in transportation funds that's been provided by the Weber Area Council of Governments that brings public support in at 23.4 million, so about a 90% to 10% split. I think that's a comfortable perspective from the percentage of contribution the public will be making to support this project. From the school district's perspective, currently the school district off that 48 plus acres is getting about $10,800 a year in property tax. Under the proposed structure and the anticipated or estimated valuations, the average new property tax that you'll receive, the school district will receive over the 15-year period, will be just about $130,000 a year. You're going to continue to receive the $53,800 that you've received right now. In addition, we anticipate almost $130,000 in new revenue over that 15-year period. Post project area or post 15 years, we're anticipating new revenue to be associated with the project coming to the school district over $600,000 a year. So currently $54,000, in the future $610,000 approximately. I skipped some things that we discussed more technically. If there's anything you want me to go over or I missed, please let me know.
Right up front, you said 5 years on the build out for Target.
We anticipate the full build out of the project within 5 to 6 years.
So 2029.
And to that end, the one component of the project that may be delayed would be the multifamily development. And certainly it's to the benefit of the developer that the retail portion of it gets done as soon as possible. So that section of it will be the priority, which is 90% of the development. So again, within 5 years.
Doug, I know you can't divulge a lot of information, but you said there's some other discussions concerning the multifamily development.
Well, the other discussions really have been about what I'm guessing might be your concern based on your question about single family, and other entities and parts of the community have asked, can the developer consider single family development rather than multifamily development? From the developer's perspective, you can certainly see that the density is more valuable. From the community's perspective, we all want our families and our children, to live in affordable housing, and that's the challenge that we're all having, because apartments have become somewhat more affordable, but we'd rather be in a house. And so at this point, again, the proposal is a multifamily development. I don't candidly anticipate that will change from the developer's perspective. At this point, the zoning allows it. So the city doesn't really have a tool necessarily to change that would make the project amenable to Target and other retailers coming into the project area.
Again, Doug, you probably said this, how many units is that?
260 unit apartments.
Possibly half a school.
That's what I'm looking at. So,
Any other questions, discussion? Doug, always it's wonderful to work with you. Mayor, thanks for coming in. I think, are we scheduled for next month for you to come back?
Yes, and we can certainly, board, take it back to our committee and discuss that and circle back with Doug and the mayor
Yes.
too in the next week or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'd be happy to. Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate you coming in. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Good information.
Board, one thing I need to add is a thank you to Mayor Pippin. I don't know if you're aware of this, but he's been one of our crossing guards out helping our students get to Silver Ridge safely from one of our subdivisions, and we want to thank him for that. You got a little bit of press on that, didn't you, Mayor?
Not on that one, it was when we flooded.
Oh, that's right.
But
We
for what
thank
it's
you.
worth, I was out there cross guarding first before I went.
Gotcha. Well, we thank you for your help. Yeah, thank you.
I think you did get a little publicity on that, maybe not over the news channels, but on our Lane Finley, I think on our Facebook page, maybe. Moving on, some school success plans. Dr. Brian Vecrini, please.
Superintendent, President, Widdowson Board. Good to be back in front of you guys at the start of the school year. So school success plans, you guys had some time to review the 1,567 page documents that you received. I'm only kidding. As you know, they're extremely comprehensive, and part of the purpose around these, well, there's twofold within that folder. The first being the TSSA evaluations that are required annually by the USB and the grant that we get for those TSSA monies. So they were in there, and those evaluations followed the old plan format, so it looked a little bit different. And then the school success plans now serve as a TSSA plan along with other plans, particularly for schools in improvement status, whether that's in TSI, ATSI, CSI, and then additionally for Title I's schools as a plan. So they're not having to write 3 different plans with different goals and everything. We worked with the state to consolidate those. The idea behind the school success plans is that we're driving initiatives that are going to create change that is systemic within the schools and is in alignment to the district strategic plan, which came about as a result of the audit a few years back. Attached to each plan is their budget proposal for how the schools will expend those funds. And we will this year be working alongside the schools in coaching capacity to create a TSSA evaluation on the specifics of that plan and how they implemented those strategies and action steps. So upon approval, these are on the consent calendar. So upon approval, we'll post these plans to the school website. Part of these plans are iterative, and so as plans change, we do encourage mid-course corrections because we don't want to just sit in the plan that we know is not working in the moment. Then those would also be updated to the school website. Superintendent, do you have anything you want to add?
No, Board. One thing that I would like to do, 2 things actually. And first of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Beccarini. He has, since joining our district as our new assessment director, kind of transformed the landscape around assessment and around school improvement. We are in a far better place on helping our leaders in our schools build capacity around school improvement. And so we're going to continue along that vein, but I want to give him a shout out. There's many other leaders in the room that have taken part in different parts of that plan. But if you take a look at those, you'll see how comprehensive they are, but really they're centered in on maybe 2 or 3 goals total. So we've tried to simplify and focus our schools in on very, very definitive focal areas that we think are going to help them close the gaps in terms of student learning and performance. So I'm really excited about it. We've not had school plans directly tied to a district-wide strategic plan before, and I think we're really going to see the merits of it over the next couple of years. So I just wanted to thank Brian for his leadership as well on that.
Gina, can I just mention something on that? I also have been following this a little bit closely, but thank you so much for aligning the many plans so that they're not trying to manage 14 balls in the air at once, but rather to consolidate those and make that a little more manageable. I know from working inside the schools that is going to be very much appreciated.
Okay, and then the second part of the presentation is a portion of the DLI study. This is the academic and fiscal data. We don't have clean data for 2025 yet. Accountability data will not come out until January this year due to the changes in the ELA test and RISE. So there's some data that has 2025 data in it. It's considered raw data and not clean data. And then I've worked with RBA for some of the fiscal data. So as we kind of go through this, there's some varying graphs, and you guys have access to these as well. But when we look at Acadian's data for our Chinese cohort, we can see that they are outperforming both in reading and in math than their traditional reading at those schools and traditional math at those schools as well as the district. And we see a similar trend within the Spanish at both Freedom and Majestic within Acadians for reading and math. And these are looking at 3 bars there. You got first grade, second grade, third grade. So it's following a specific cohort of students and how they're performing. When we look at RISE, We also see that our DLI at these schools are outperforming traditional, and overall in the district, we're outperforming the traditional but not outperforming in the DLI in English and in math. And a very similar trend within Spanish, although the traditional and district is a little bit more aligned in these data points in regards to Freedom and Majestic. Looking at AP scores, the global score there, I do have to note, that's any student taking an AP exam anywhere across the world, and so typically the global scores are higher in those capacities. So the red line and the green bars representing our district, and the red bar representing the state. These are the mean scores that students are scoring on that. You can see over the last 3 years, we've had an upward trend, both as a state and as a district, and they're closing the gap between us and the state. These are the passing rates. Again, kind of mirrors the mean scores we would expect to see, and 2025 we see the highest passing rates that we've seen since COVID era. And in Spanish, we see a higher mean score, although not as high as we were in 2020, and a significantly higher passing rate of 69% there, and kind of flatlined out across the last 4 years. Looking at enrollment and cost, fiscal costs. So employees that are on J1 or H1B visa, they're authorized to work only for the organization that sponsors that visa. Typically, visas have a 3-year extension opportunity. USB does support in helping the teachers to get that extension piece. But for a J1 or an H1B, typically is costing the district around $7,000. Part of that depends on that includes our lawyer fees. So depends on how many times I email them, and I'm getting better about learning not to email quite as often. And then also looking at, like, is there an reason for an expedited cost for a visa for an individual. Currently, we have 13 DLI teachers on some type of visa, whether that's J1 or H1B. 12 of those are Chinese teachers, and 1 is a Spanish teacher. When we look at the student ratio cost, so the way that this was calculated is the average cost, including benefits, of a teacher is about $130,000. So when we look at the ratio of enrollment in Chinese classes, it's 1 to 19, whereas in the traditional classes in those schools, it's 1 to 25. So we're looking at roughly spending $6,842 for each student that's enrolled in a Chinese class versus the $5,200 for each student that's enrolled in the traditional class. And then similarly, in the same vein, Spanish is a 1 to 24 and 1 to 26 and this is, impact on elementary. This is our elementary FTE cost. So it's a little bit of a closer gap. Instead of $1,500, we're about at $500 between the Spanish enrollments. And that kind of takes us into the overall enrollments of our programs. There's a lot of data that I have on this that I'm happy to share in multiple spreadsheets and various individual cohorts. I took the enrollment averages from 22 to 26 school year, so including this school year. For first grade, the average for Chinese came out at 42.9, and for Spanish it was 54.8. What's significant about that is the retention rates, and we can see that over time, even within this range of years, the numbers are dropping. And some elementaries and secondary class sizes are sitting at less than 15 students. And that's both in Chinese and in Spanish classes at elementary or at secondary levels. And elementary, really, it's only sitting in the Chinese, and then that happens to be due to a very small enrollment at Bates Elementary this year for their first grade, which is at 28, so they're sitting at 14 and 14. So we do have some declines between first and ninth grade. This is looking at a specific cohort of students, just to kind of get an idea of what the retention is. So in 2016, both of these cohorts, Chinese started with 57.5 students, first grade starting with 58.5. Again, these are taking the averages from both schools. That's why we get a half a body in there. And then we're dropping all the way down by ninth grade to under 30 in both of those. So we're losing students, and the biggest drop is happening from 6th to 7th grade and through those junior high years. And part of that is due to the desire for other elective courses. And the understanding has to come from those enrolling in DLI that is your elective course. You're kind of predetermining that elective course by enrolling in first grade. But of course, mine's changed. I've got a daughter who's in the 8th grade now, and certainly what she wanted in first grade is not the same thing as in 8th grade. So we see those declines, but there's some work that can be done to help mitigate these components. The 5-year average for Chinese in regards to the largest drop going from elementary to junior high is 9 students. So we're losing about 9 kids each year on average in Chinese, and 9.4 students on average in Spanish from 6th grade to 7th grade. So before I jump to next steps, any questions on any of that? I know it's quick and dirty. I'm trying to give Heidi as much time as she needs. Okay, so our next steps, November, I'll be back here. We're gonna identify some procedures. We're actually gonna have these procedures right now for adding and removing special programs, not just to include DLI, because it's not just DLI classes at secondary where we've got small class sizes. We also have other programs that are running small class sizes. So working with a variety of departments and our business department on identifying fiscally responsible enrollment thresholds for adding or removing programs, developing procedures for removing a program, working to minimize the impact on students and staff, and developing additional protocols that give consideration to pedagogical and educational access of students, the location of those programs, the fiscal costs, including staffing, student and community engagement and enrollment, and then of course academic success of our students in those programs. And then by December, determine programs that need to be added or removed. This is where the community input's going to come in, and those focus groups will come into play over the course of the next couple of months. We're going to be looking at additional program costs and community access and enrollment, and what the best moves and decisions are going to be made for that. And then also looking at the facilities where programs are being housed and ensuring that they're in appropriate facilities and for long-term longevity of the program. And then at that point, we'll be presenting to the Board of Direction for programs that are not meeting enrollment thresholds. This could look like the consolidation of programs, the removal of programs, or the reallocation of programs, but at this point, we have not made that determination. So any questions or comments on that? Okay, thank you guys. Oh, sorry, Janice.
I just want to say thank you. It sounds like you have really done a lot of thorough work.
And I've got
so
a
much.
great team that's helping me, so I can't take full credit, but we do appreciate that, Janice, and the work has been a collective effort for sure.
Thank you so much.
Human Resources, Heidi and Heather. Just Heidi.
7 minutes. Good evening, Board, Superintendent, Board President. We just have a couple of policies that we presented last month that we will present in the full board meeting on a second read. And I'm going to start with those ones. The first one is policy 4160, our residency and enrollment policy. And if you recall from last month, we added a section specific to enrollment of foreign students, and the process that we go through when we enroll foreign students. Between last board meeting and today, there were no comments or feedback, but we did add one provision on page 9 that we've actually had a few students coming into our district who are here on visitor visas, and federal law does not allow a visitor visa student or person to enroll in school. So we just clarified in policy, as per federal law, the district doesn't admit foreign students who are temporarily in the country on a tourist or visitor visa, and that's the only thing we added between last month and this month. Any questions on that policy before I go on to this next second read? The next second read policy is policy 7200. This is one that we had just passed on second reading in June, but then had to bring back to the board in August because of some changes that the State Board of Education made us aware of with regard to when the stipend could be distributed. This policy is our SHINE policy, salary supplement for highly needed educators program. We had planned to distribute the stipend throughout the school year, and the state board let us know that no, we need, other way around. We had planned to distribute the stipend in a one-time stipend, and the state board let us know that we needed to distribute that throughout the year as part of their salary. So we had to go back and revise the timelines to that policy, and we haven't had any feedback between last month and this month. Any questions on policy 7200? Okay. We have two new policies that we are bringing to the board. The first one is policy 4200. We would have brought this on consent because the majority of the changes, and you may see a lot of pink in that there's been a lot of changes. They're all statutory changes, pink and green. There was a bill from last legislative session that made some changes to the fees. But we did add one piece that we wanted to bring to the board's attention and just make sure you're aware of, and that is that we are charging a fine, not a fee, and that it's not waivable, but a fine for disposing of hazardous waste like e-cigarettes. We've been having some, when our administrators confiscate those e-cigarettes, it costs us money to dispose of them according to the hazardous waste regulations. And so the district would like to pass that on to students who are violating our policies by bringing an e-cigarette to school in the first place. And so that is something we wanted to present to the board and make sure the board is aware of that. And if you have any questions, happy to address that.
That's good.
Last policy that we are presenting. Yes, I'm sorry.
What's that? I think Jan.
Yeah.
I just had one question on that one, Heidi. Did they have a chance to dispute that cost, or is that just a fine? And if it's confiscated, we keep that and we charge them the fine.
Right,
Is
and
that
I
correct?
believe we were not going to do it on the first time. Matt and Heather can speak to that. So it'll be the third time it's confiscated.
Okay.
So
Thank
it's
you.
in there as a may, that a student may be fined. And just in practice, we're training administrators that the first and second time, we're not going to impose the fine, but on the third time, the fine will be imposed.
We keep the device and we impose a fine.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else on that one? I hear the crowd rumbling, so I'll be quick. Policy 4500 is our extracurricular activities policy. And we added a section about 9th grade participation in high school athletic classes. We have had some athletic extracurricular activities where high schools have started adding a class during the school day, making it problematic for our 9th graders to be leaving junior high to participate in the class in addition to participate in the activity after school. We have decided to eliminate class time used for extracurricular activities except for specific activities where we don't have enough facilities to actually have all these activities after school. And we wanted to, right now that really is limited to cheerleading, swimming, what was the other two, Matt? Cheerleading, boys and girls basketball. But we didn't write it, and what was the other one? And drill, thank you. We didn't put those into the policy because those may change. We wanted to give the district some flexibility when it comes to creating these courses, but looking specifically at what facilities do we have available. Is this a year-round activity versus a seasonal activity? And only those activities will then be allowed to have classes during the school day where those groups can practice in order to limit the amount of time that ninth graders have to leave their school to come up to the high school to participate in those activities. So those are the changes to policy 4500. Any questions on that? And then we just have a policy on consent, because it's all statutory changes. Our restraint and seclusion policy, there were a number of changes made the last legislative session that requires us to have a policy and specific provisions in that policy. So everything in the policy comes straight out of state law, and that is on consent for the board to make. Any questions about that?
Appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
We have just a couple minutes before we need to start our regular board meeting, so let's take a quick break and we'll meet back here and start at 6 o'clock. Thank you.